Good evening. Thank you for coming out this afternoon for the candidate forum. We welcome you to Volunteer State Community College. My name is Nick Bishop. I have the pleasure of serving as Vice President for Economic and Community Development here at Volunteer State Community College. On behalf of President Montague, all of our staff, all of our faculty, we welcome you to Volunteer State Community College, and we hope you enjoy your stay, and we hope that the forum is very productive and informative for you tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this event this evening. The Gallatin Chamber of Commerce has put in a lot of effort to make this event possible tonight. We currently have Volunteer State Community College AV staff as well as staff from the Gallatin Chamber that's putting all this technology together as we speak. So big kudos and thanks to those individuals for putting this together. We'd also like to thank the Gallatin Chamber's partner for tonight's event, Main Street Media. Miss Sherry Mitchell with Main Street Media will soon take the stage as your moderator, so you won't have to listen to me for the rest of the night. Thanks, Brennan. And for those of you joining online, we also thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us online to hear the forum tonight. So before we begin, I've been asked to lay some of the ground rules for this event. So bear with me as we walk through those. First up tonight, we will have the candidates for road superintendent. You will be welcomed to the stage by the moderator, and we ask that each candidate that enters the stage, please both enter and exit from the steps that are to my left. As you enter the stage, take the first seat that you come to as a candidate. Each candidate for road superintendent will have 2 minutes to state their platform. Please be advised that no questions will be asked of road superintendent candidates. So please try to keep your statements to 2 minutes. Upon each road candidate issuing their platform, you will need to exit the stage again to my left. At that point in time, the moderator will call forth the candidates for sheriff. Same process. Please take the first seat that you come to. You will also have 2 minutes to state your platform, and please be advised that those candidates for sheriff will not be asked questions. So please keep your platform to 2 minutes. Upon finishing your platform, again, please exit the stage to your left. After the sheriff's candidates complete their platforms, all general sessions judge candidates will enter the stage at the direction of the moderator. The candidates for judge will have 3 minutes to state their platform. I didn't create that rule, but that's what's on this paper. So upon completing your platform, also be sure to please exit the stage to your left. Upon completion of the general sessions judge candidates, the moderator will call forth the candidates for the county executive and county mayor race. Again, please take the first seat that you come to. This section will be a little bit different. You'll have an opportunity to state your platform for 2 minutes, and you will be asked questions. Candidates will have 1 minute response times to each of your questions and a 30-second rebuttal time limit. There will be blank paper and a pen provided at each seat for each candidate to take notes. Please be advised that notes and other materials may not be brought with you to stage. And if you do, I'll have to confiscate them. Timekeepers. We will have timekeepers located in the front row of the auditorium. Timekeepers, can you raise your hand? There you go. Thank you, timekeepers. They will be equipped with signage that will notify the candidates and the moderators when your time is at the halfway point and then when your time is over. This will be covered at the start, and we'll show the signage as you walk up to the stage. We're going to do our best to wrap this event up by no later than 8 p.m., so please try to remain within your time frame. The only other rule I would make up with this, since I'm up here behind the microphone, I get to make up at least one rule, is that I would really stress to you to keep in mind that Sumner County is a really special place. I get to work all across the region, across 11 and 12 counties, and I can tell you have something very special in this community. So when you get through with this debate, this forum, and you get through this election cycle, make sure you keep that community spirit, because once you lose it, you can't get it back. So make sure you leave here as friends, neighbors, and colleagues, and that you remain that way throughout the election cycle. That's my request. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome to the stage Ms. Sherry Mitchell. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming and hope you all enjoy this evening. My name is Sherry Mitchell with Main Street Media of Tennessee. I work with the Hendersonville Standard, the Gallatin News, and the Portland Sun. And this is our lead reporter with the Portland Sun, Miss Bonnie Fussell. We couldn't do without her. So if the road superintendent candidates could come to the stage, please. Okay, okay, Mr. Ellis, would you like to start first on your platform?
Sure. My name is Toby Ellis. I'm running for Sumner County Road Superintendent in this election. I've had a 35-year career in heavy roadway construction. I've managed asphalt plants, quarries, base and paving crews. I've managed grading and utility crews in major development consisting of residential and commercial. I've been a CEI with the state, and I've also managed and operated my own TDOT certified lab, which we did testing for concrete and asphalt. I understand the science behind the mixed designs and what it takes to have longevity of the cycle of your roadways. I feel that it's important in having that experience when you're dealing with a municipality that has a budget. If we create a proper procedure that through density and compaction rates, that we can go in and create a life cycle and extend it, it extends your budget. And it's very important to the county to do so. I've been very honored to be a consultant with cities and counties in Middle Tennessee. I've some of the cities right here in Sumner County consisting of Gallatin. I've even been a consultant for the Sumner County Highway Department with testing the mixed designs and doing checks and balances. I've raised my family for 35 years here in Sumner County. I'm very excited at the chance to serve as Sumner County Road Superintendent, and I would really appreciate that on May 3rd in the Republican primary, you'll vote for me. And remember, the roads to progress leads through experience. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being a part of your community, and God bless.
Mr. Burmeister.
Good evening. My name is Burmeister, and I am running for Sumner County Road Superintendent. I've been with the Highway Department currently for 12 years, serving as your Assistant Road Superintendent for the last 3. It is my goal over the next, I am equipped to serve as your road superintendent because of my vast hands-on experience. Over the next 4 years, I plan to run the road superintendent, the road department without bias. I plan to look, I'm not a politician, so this is what it is. I vow to you to be honest, have integrity, and be truthful. I have no loyalties with anybody, and what I want to do over the next 4 years is lead the road department like I know how to lead the road department. I'm already doing the job. I know how to manage 791 plus roads with 500 plus bridges with 51 employees and a limited budget. If you want a politician, don't vote for me because I'm not that guy. If you want somebody that can lead with integrity, truthfulness, honor, and dedication, I'm your man. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Could the sheriff's candidates please come to the podium? Mr. Weatherford, would you like to present your platform?
Absolutely. Thank you. My name is Sonny Weatherford, and I've been your sheriff for the last 11 years. During that time, I've been dedicated not only to the sheriff's office, but to the employees and to the citizens of Sumner County. My wife and myself are lifelong Sumner County residents. I'm a graduate of the Gallatin High School. I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather. Ladies and gentlemen, while working as your sheriff, I have brought the technology of the sheriff's office up to a level that is in this century. Before, the technology was very far behind, and we were always in a struggle to do our job. During these times, I have created first of all, with me being a father and a grandfather, I am vowed to make the schools as safe as I can make them. By doing that, I have taken from the beginning as my sheriff, being sheriff, there was only 7 people working in the SRO program. I have now got that to, we're over 40, and by the time that the fall semester starts up this year, I will have an officer in every school. So I try to be well-rounded. I try to be a true leader. I try to bring, like I said, technology and the tools that our employees need to do their job. One of those being training. Our officers have gone to more training this year than ever before. We have brought, again, technology into our training. We're doing electronic training. And so, is that it? Okay, please vote for me in the May election.
Mr. Bean?
Thank you very much. I'm going to pull this closer. My name is Keith Bean, and I'm running for sheriff of Sumner County. I've lived in the Sumner County community for 52 years. I've been a law enforcement officer for 34 years, 30 of those years that I've spent at the sheriff's office. I've had a lot of people ask me while I've been out talking to people, why did I retire? I retired back in the summer of 2020. The reason is there's a lot of rules that govern deputy sheriffs, and they're prohibited from campaigning while they're on duty. Well, I didn't want to get jarred up and jammed up and all that, so I went ahead and retired so I could run for sheriff. I've known I was going to run for sheriff for several years. While I worked at the sheriff's office, I retired as a lieutenant. While I was there, I assisted in the hiring process and also assisted in the background checks of the employees. During the hiring process, I would say, and this would be an estimate, probably about half of the employees that are there now, I probably went through the hiring process that I did. And the other employees I've worked with usually on a daily basis on different matters. This gave me kind of a unique perspective because I was able to talk with them and find out their concerns and find out their frustrations that they had at the sheriff's office with their employment. I've got a unique set of abilities because I've worked in and or with every division in the office. So for the sake of time tonight, I want you all, if you would, whenever you can, go to my website. It's electbeingforsheriff.com. Please just check out my qualifications and my background and look at my plan of action. Thank you very much. May 3rd primary will decide your next sheriff's race. Thank you.
Could all the general sessions judge candidates please come to the podium? Okay, Mr. Whalen, we'll start with you, please.
That was tricky, Key. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. And I appreciate the moderators. Each of you will make a decision soon on who you will vote for. My suggestion to you is that it's not so much about whether we can do the job. Rather, I'll suggest it's about who you want to sit behind the bench. If you're in the courtroom, that judge is going to hear your case, whether it's you or a family member. That's your decision. Who do you want behind that bench? I'd ask you to consider 3 things when you're making that decision. The quality of my education, attending law school in Washington, D.C., working on Capitol Hill, teaching at Vanderbilt University. The skills I learned studying for my MBA at Stanford University, and the business practices I developed as a CPA. Second, the breadth and depth of my experience. Started out as a teacher, a coach, and 40 years of legal practice. In that regard, I've represented matters in federal, state, and local courts, criminal, civil, plaintiff, and defendant. In that regard, I would assure you I will hear your case with an open mind. Third, a catalyst for innovation. This is important. I've talked to several judges. They've all said the court needs some fresh ideas and new approaches to address the growing number of cases. 30,000 cases, 15,000 cases a judge, a case every 5 to 10 minutes. My career has been as a catalyst for innovation with fresh ideas and new approaches. I can do that here. How? Things to do. One is, I suggest, looking at the cases themselves. How do they get there? Can we get ahead of the case count? How do we handle it in the court? Looking at procedures and administration to move cases along. Technology. We need to use technology to make the court system operate more smoothly. For example, we're building a new courthouse. I would hope it's going to have the latest in technology. I would hope it would have best practices from across the country. This is what I seek to accomplish. This is what I look to do with you. In this regard, this timing is getting me off here. In this regard, I would say, consider what I can do for you, how I can serve the court, and this is why I'm running for General Sessions Judge and ask you to vote for me, to vote for Bill Whalen. Thank you.
Mr. Templeton?
Take a page out of his book and stand up for y'all. My name's Tyler Templeton. I'm a lifelong resident of Sumner County. In fact, I'm the 5th generation of my family to live on our farm in Bethpage, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Westmoreland, attended Merle High School, and graduated from MTSU, and then attended National School of Law. Since I was in school, I worked for my mother's law firm. I've been there 11 years now. During that time, my primary practice is criminal law and family law also. But I tell you that because General Sessions is a criminal law court. To say that I would be ready on day one is an understatement. Like I said, I primarily practice criminal law. I've been ranked top 10 under age 40 in the state of Tennessee by the National Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys for 3 years in a row. And I've set as special judge for literally hundreds of hours in the past year. So to say that I would be ready on day one is an understatement. There's an epidemic in our community that is hitting my age bracket especially, and that is drug and recovery issues. Our county has a great recovery court. I fully support that, and I believe everyone that comes into that court, we need to be asking our question, what can we do to help our community? That is what this is about. That's what the job is. There is a place for punishment, but there's also a place for compassion, and we need to understand that in this court. I'd appreciate your support in August the 4th of 2022, and please check out my website, templetonforjudge.com. Thank you.
Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Okay, that microphone did not work. Is this one work? Hello, hello? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Somebody does not want me to talk tonight. Okay. Anyway, my name is Russ Edwards. I'm a Republican candidate for General Sessions Judge. And I appreciate the chamber tonight hosting this, and thank you for everybody coming and all those at home watching from home. Just to tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Sumner County, actually born in Hendersonville, and graduated from Gallatin High School. And after my wife and I graduated from the University of Tennessee, we decided to raise our family here in Sumner County. We have 2 children. One is special needs, and my wife and I have been married for almost 22 years. I am an attorney and have been an attorney for over 18 years, practicing law right here in Sumner County. I've also been a small business owner. My father and I own a small practice right in Hendersonville. And I handle practically in every type of case that can come to court, and I handle every type of case that could come before the General Sessions Court on a daily basis. So it would be an easy transition for me to be the next General Sessions Court judge. I also am the Sumner County Bar Association president. I am the vice president of our recovery court program, which is a wonderful program. We do not have, time does not permit me to go into detail about our recovery court, but if anybody wants to reach out to me, I would love to talk about it. My goal as judge would be to expand the recovery court program so that more people can have an opportunity to have their mental health or substance abuse issues addressed so that they can go on to be productive members of our society and get out of the criminal justice system. So that would be a priority of mine, but my number one priority would be public safety. And that's where it starts with the judges. We have good judges now. I want to continue us to have a good judicial system. And if we have good public safety, strong law enforcement, that's when we can have a good community for us to live, work, and raise our families. I am currently a Hendersonville City Alderman. I was first elected in 2018. I was fortunate enough to be reelected in 2020. And on that, I serve, as my role as Alderman, I serve on the Public Safety Committee, where I work closely with our police and fire departments to ensure that they have proper funding so that we can have a good, safe community. I'm also a member attorney of the Police Benevolent Association, where we represent police officers who are sued for performing their duties. I would appreciate your vote as Sumner County General Sessions Judge. I would like to bring my experience and our Sumner County values to the bench as your next General Sessions Judge. The Republican primary is on May 3rd. Thank you very much.
Mr. Blanton?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Blanton, and I have had the privilege to serve the citizens of this fine county since 1998 in the district attorney's office as a prosecutor. During that over 20-year experience, I'm in general sessions almost on a weekly basis, and I've handled thousands and thousands of cases in general sessions. As Mr. Templeton pointed out, this is primarily a criminal court situation, and the fact that we had 26,000 cases heard in the 2 general sessions courts last year. 21,400 of them were criminal cases. I do 100% criminal work. Now, I have previously was a corporate lawyer and had that experience, and I was in private practice for a short period of time. But for the last almost 22 years, I've been a prosecutor. I handled all the homicides and the armed robberies that we have in this county, and I'm ready day one because I have been in that court on a weekly basis handling matters. I have answers. I have things. There's one of the biggest issues we have in general sessions court is the mere volume. One of the things I want to do day one is meet with the attorneys and put down some guidelines as to the number of continuances we have, because there's far too many continuances, and victims in cases are victimized again because their case gets continued and continued and continued. And that's something I intend to implement day one. In addition, speaking of bonds and public safety, I've been working with Senator Hale and Representative Garrett, Representative Lambert on the bill that's currently in the general session, in the General Assembly, about making public safety one of the top reasons that they look at when the judge is evaluating bond. Instead of whether a person's going to show up or not, I think public safety needs to be one of the top things that they consider when setting a bond on somebody. I was involved in the very first recovery court when it was established here back in the early 2000s, late 1990s. I'm very familiar with it. I served as a drug prosecutor and was the responsible for the gatekeeper of people going in and out of drug court. I was in staffing, so I know the issues. One of the things that I want to do in our recovery courts, which includes drug court, DUI court, and mental health courts, is to expand it. I've talked with both candidates for the Sheriff's Department. I'm also talking with some people with the County Commission. One of the things that I would like to do is to see us have an accredited rehab facility within the 4 walls of the jail, so that when a person comes in, whether they go into one of our recovery courts, but working in conjunction with the recovery courts, a person gets the opportunity to get the help that they needed and the tools. Now, whether they choose to do that or not, that's up on them. But we've got to be able to provide these individuals tools for recovery. And that's one of the primary things that I want to do. Vote for Ron Blanton for General Sessions Judge. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Bryant-McCormick.
Good evening, and I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and inviting me, and all of you for attending and watching. My name is Kee Bryant-McCormick. I'm an attorney here in Sumner County. I've been practicing about 16 years. I'm a wife to my husband, Sean, for the last 24 years, and we have one son. His name is Chase. He's a special needs guy who loves to sing, and he goes to station camp. I attended law school at Texas A&M and Vanderbilt University. I've dedicated my practice to both civil and criminal. I am a community servant leader. I believe in giving back to the community. I'm a past president of the Bar Association, as well as a member of multiple organizations here in Sumner County. I grew up in very humble beginnings. Quite frankly, we were poor. My grandparents had an outhouse. My parents were not lawyers. My parents weren't college educated. I'm first generation college educated in my family. But my mom instilled in us hard work and faith in God. And based on those, she taught us that we can do anything, as the scripture tells us. So she also became a first responder. She taught me about serving the community. And in that, you know, she was dedicated to that and was a single mom after her marriage to my dad failed. When I was 5 years old, my sister married a police officer. So in my family, I've only known respect for the red, white, and blue, the men and women who wear those colors. So for me, it's understanding the plight of all of what everyone goes through. Most people don't remember when the first time they knew what they wanted to do when they grew up. I do. When I was a kid, I was the victim of a horrible crime. And I'll never forget the officer who came to investigate, because he could talk like Donald Duck and we thought he was amazing. And I'll never forget meeting the judges and the lawyers involved in that case. And I remember saying, that's what I want to do. I want to help people in that way. And it's shaped me. It's also made me have a commitment to safety. As a victim, I understand the need to feel safe. I understand those needs. So for me, all of us are going to tell you we're educated, we're qualified, and we have the credentials and we can start day one. We all can tell you that. And what separates me from these guys and what makes me stand out, besides the obvious that I have longer hair, is I'm not telling you what I've learned, I'm telling you what I've lived. And these are things that I've lived. So if you want to judge who understands the plight of law enforcement in their split-second decisions, vote Kee. If you want to judge who has a commitment to Sumner County and safety, vote Kee. If you want to judge that has creativity to bring programs that will help stop the revolving door on crime, vote Kee. If you want to judge who understands our laws and will apply them firmly and fairly, vote Kee. Most of all, I ask you to give me a chance. I won't let you down. Vote Kee in the Republican primary on May 3rd or early voting 13th through the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, could the county mayor candidates please come to the stage? Okay, gentlemen, we'll start in the same fashion and start on this right-hand side of the table and go down. Each of you will have 1 minute to respond to the question, and then if someone wants a rebuttal, there's a 30-second time limit. Okay? All right, first question, Mr. Isbell. What do you feel the main role of the county mayor is?
The main role of the county mayor is to lead this county. Over the years, I've built leadership skills through my training as assessor of property, working with other state assessors, traveling around teaching assessors how to lead and how to lead their offices and lead with the citizen boards. That's the most important thing. It's also about building relationships. I've worked down at the state capitol, build relationships when we do our policy work.
We're gonna start that over. This is our online.
Okay.
And hey, the microphones will all come on when it's your turn to talk. Y'all don't have to.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. Each of you will be asked a question, and we'll go in similar fashion from this side of the table down. You will each have 1 minute to respond, and if someone wants a rebuttal after that, you have 30 seconds, okay? We'll start with Mr. Isbell. What do you feel the main role of the county mayor is?
Well, the main role of the county mayor is to lead the county. I have worked hard over the past 16 years as assessor of property, building leadership skills, training and mentoring assessors across the state. I've led when it came to the strategic planning process at the International Association when I served on the executive board and had an opportunity to be part of a leadership team of 7,000 plus assessors across the world. And we built that strategic plan to take that organization to the next level. Leadership is very key in performing this role as assessor and then as on to county mayor. In addition to that, it's going to be about building relationships locally with the city, building relationships with the state. All of those are going to be important to carry out the function and to handle the day-to-day operation. Two judges, they did it.
Perfect.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight.
It's now 8:00.
We are gonna start with John Isbell, Mr. Isbell, and go down the line. Mr. Isbell, what do you feel like the most important role of the county mayor is?
I think the most important role of the county mayor is to lead the county. How's that? Leading the county is very important. I've worked my entire career with the county, building leadership skills, working with assessors across the state, mentoring assessors. We're doing training and all of the things that it takes to lead. And then also it's about building relationships. When we build relationships, we're working with our city leaders, our county leaders. I've been doing that for the last 16 years. I've done that. We've accomplished goals. We turned to one of our things where we brought all the cities together was our GIS program, where we were sharing data. Prior to that, we were just handing data by disk, and it was all static. Now it goes by an operation of demand. And that helps a lot. That saves money. Thank you.
Mr. Arias.
The primary goal or lead or job duty, I should say, is the county mayor to be a leader. That's what we need. We are a divided nation of people. We are also divided in Sumner County. There's several fractions in this county that have different ideas about where we are, what we need to do, and how we need to go about our future. The next mayor of this county is going to have to be able to lead those groups and try to come to some kind of consensus. Let's face it, we don't do social policy, okay? We don't do that. We've got to be able to lead on the issues that face Sumner County, and that's where I feel like I have a strength to be able to work with different groups in this county to bring things together and do what's best for all of us moving forward.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes, ma'am. I think the core component of the county mayor is going to be consensus building and then tone setting following that. And what I mean by that is, as the county mayor, statutorily, there's not a lot if you really look at it. But what you do is you're the face of the county, and you have to reach out to all the municipalities and be able to not only do what's best from that 30,000 view for the overall county, but address each community, maintaining its culture, keeping things the right way they are. There's a charm to Portland, Gallatin, Hendersonville, Goodlettsville. They all have something separate. And I think as a county mayor, you've got to recognize that and embrace it and build it. When you look at some of the issues that are coming up, growth, we're going to have growth. So you need to be specific and purposeful. How does that happen from the county mayor? Because they place people on the planning commission. That dictates exactly what happens in our county. When you look at some of the infrastructure we have to look at, water projects, one of the ones I had the privilege of being the county commission budget chair, we pulled all the municipalities together and put water in the northern part of the county. We did that in about a week's time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Did anyone have a rebuttal on this question? Okay.
Mr. Isbell, if elected, what would be your top 3 priorities?
When I'm elected county mayor, my first priority is transparency and trust, rebuilding that bridge of trust with the citizens and restoring the citizens' voice in county government. Over the years, it's been shut down. Citizens haven't had an opportunity to interact with the county commission as they should. And that's going to be one of my primary goals. As far as transparency, from my first 100 days in office, we're going to roll out a GIS-based program that will help people identify exactly where their tax dollars are going. You'll be able to see everything based on your property and also be able to find out a bunch of other information about your county that will help you. That's going to be the top priority when I take office. From there, it's going to be addressing growth, maintaining the charm and character of our county, and then also restoring relationships throughout the state and local government.
Mr. Arias?
It goes without saying, obviously, honesty, the voice of the people need to be addressed. But the three main issues for me, as far as what we have to deal with besides that, one, are property taxes. CBS News did a report last year that showed Sumner County is one of the top 10 most expensive counties to live in the United States as far as the cost of housing. That's your mortgage payment, your taxes, and your insurance. The other 9, California and New York. I don't like being on that list. We need to address that. Also, infrastructure. We've got road issues. Everybody knows that. You don't have to drive far around Hendersonville and Gallatin to see that. The third thing in this, schools. Obviously, they take up a lot of money. I think that the teachers in this county, we need to find a way to pay them better to keep the best and the brightest, because our future is the education that these young people, our children, my grandchildren, and yours are getting from Sumner County schools.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's nuts and bolts. It's really simple stuff. You maintain the excellent school system that we have. We've made strides in the last 8 years. And you say, why the schools? Well, the school's time with workforce. There's a direct correlation between unemployment and your graduation rate. And ours is at 96.7%. It's pretty amazing. Then you need to make sure and focus on first responders and the services they provide. That's the sheriff's departments, emergency services, OEM, on rural fire. You've got to make sure that you take care of the infrastructure. Again, it's making sure that you're doing the things the right way. We've started an aggressive plan with the roads. Over the past 4 years, we're about 3/4 of the way through the first year, where we're going to repurpose all 280 miles of the county. We've started to address the water by a $46 million project that Senator Hale, who's an amazing man in our leadership, has helped us put together, so we push water to the northern parts of the county. We've got broadband, and again, a $15 million project that pushes broadband out through the entire parts of the county. How do you get to all those things? Really simple. It's long-term planning. You have to take the time to lay the foundation. We've been doing that for 8 years, and I want to continue to do that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any rebuttals? Moving on. Mr. Isbell, what do you think would be the biggest challenge if you were elected?
Well, the biggest challenge facing Sumner County right now is growth. As we continue to grow, we have to maintain a focus on the charm and character that has made Sumner County great. It's a great place to call home. That is something that we have to address. With growth drives infrastructure, drives your schools. All of it's predicated on growth. So we do have to have a good plan to address growth as we go forward. That's going to be very important in Sumner County. And I think that's probably the most critical issue facing Sumner County. After that, it's going to be our debt. Over the past 8 years, our debt has gone up by 133%. We need to be aggressive on reducing that debt. We are facing a real possibility of a third tax increase in 2024 with the reappraisal. And if we don't get a handle on the debt now, we're going to be in trouble.
Mr. Arias?
As John said, obviously it is growth, because growth causes issues for everything. It causes issues for the schools. It causes issues on our roadways. It causes issues in the court system and for the sheriff's department. The money's got to come from somewhere to fund these things, okay? I've sat down with the mayors of both Hendersonville and Gallatin, with Dr. Phillips, with Sheriff Weatherford, and spoken to them about these things. And one of the things that we're facing as well is a new school, an elementary school that will need to be built coming up here shortly. Liberty Creek is about to open. All of these things are going to cost money. We've got to get a handle on growth across the county, do it right, do it responsibly and wisely if we're going to be able to handle some of these things like the infrastructure, because these things are not getting any better and they're only going to get worse.
Mr. Taylor?
Could you repeat the question, please, ma'am?
What do you think your biggest challenge would be if elected?
I think the biggest challenge you're going to have is what you don't plan for. Plain and simple. When you do long-term planning, when you have a strong fiscal base like our county has right now, probably one of the strongest in the state, it allows you the opportunity to start making long-term plans, which is something that government always doesn't necessarily do a great job of. When you talk about growth, I've been on the planning commission for the past 3 years. We rewrote all of our regulations, something simple but important. made sure there's no way an adult business can go in the unincorporated parts of the county. If you don't plan for things like that, they happen to you. I look at what we've done with our schools. Williamson County's 500 teachers short. Rutherford County is expanding and has no way to build their schools. Wilson County has schools that are destroyed and they can't replace. We've already prepared for that. We've laid the groundwork for the next 10 years. When you look at your first responders, Wilson County is shutting down ambulance lines. Sumner County's not. We do an amazing job because we made sure in taking care of our first responders. We put plans in place so that when this growth comes, we're prepared for it. And I think that's the best way you go about it is you lay a plan and you follow it. And it's really simple. I'll do that as your next mayor.
Any rebuttals, gentlemen?
Mr. Isbell, what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Well, it would be my experience. We talk about planning. My experience in strategic planning with our international organization has given me a keen insight in the strategic planning process. My office holder as assessor of property has given me interaction throughout county government. I've ran a conservative budget. I'm the only one here that has ran a conservative budget. Our budget has gone up less than any other office, and we've done very well with that. In addition to that, it's going to be the relationships that I've already built throughout the state, throughout the county. That's going to serve well as I lead the county through these times that we will be facing soon.
Mr. Arias?
I don't have an advanced degree in political science or business administration. My skill is the fact that I'm a regular person. I've been a police officer in this county, served as a corrections officer with the Sumner County Sheriff's Department, and an officer with Gallatin Police Department. So I've seen the best and the worst of this county. I've cleaned some of it up. I see faces in this room that I worked with at the Sheriff's Department. They know me. I don't know if they like me, but that's up to each individual. But my strength is knowing people and how to deal with people, because I've been in houses that were poor and impoverished, and I've been in houses that were rich out at Fairview and those types of areas. I just know how to deal with people. That's my strength, and that's what I want to do, be a leader to bring people together regardless of whether you're rich, poor, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. Wherever you are, we need to come together as a county and start doing things to work together to make Sumner County what we all want it to be.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. I think the best indicator of future success is previous success. I've got an MBA in finance. I'm kind of a nerd about numbers. I've been on the budget committee for the past 8 years, and 4 of those being the budget chair. I've been in charge of an organization. I'm a police officer in Nashville. I'm a deputy chief, and I'm responsible for 2,000 employees in a $230 million budget there. I've done it, and I mean that sincerely. I've done it at a level where I've learned about HR. I've learned all the lumps that you have to take on somebody else's dime. I'm ready to be the mayor, and I'm ready to run the county the right way. And when I say that, I mean I have a vast amount of experience on different things. And that's important. I've been on the planning commission. When you talk about how are you going to do that, I've been there. I've done that. I've worked with local builders to make sure that they do infrastructure improvements as part of it. It's a privilege to build in this county, and people should have to make it better when they do that. I've worked with our school system for the past 8 years to ensure that we have one of the best in the state. I'm proud to brag on our school system that we had more kids in school during COVID than anybody else in the state. I'll do that and more as your next county mayor. And I do have a rebuttal, ma'am.
Okay.
I would like to point out the fact that I've been over every budget in this county. I've seen the general fund, which is 70 million. I've seen our debt services, and I've been responsible for all of that. I've worked with every one of our elected officials and department heads over the past 8 years in helping to craft a budget to do things to make our county better each and every year. I've taken the time to work with them to make sure they have their needs met, and I've done something we never did before in this county. We've put in 5-year operational, 20-year capital plans. We're doing long-term planning, and I've been a key part of that. And I'll continue to do that as your next county mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Isbell, what do you think is the biggest difference between yourself and your opponents?
I'm conservative. That's the primary difference. You know, I've had the opportunity to work in county government now for 16 years. I've enjoyed it. It's been a great opportunity to build relationships. But my primary role is building leaders. It's building leaders within my department. It's building leaders within the organizations that I work with. It's building leaders across the state. That's what I love to do. And that's what I will continue to do. That's what sets me apart, is my conservative nature. We can talk about some of these budget items and talk about the roads. Right now, the roads, we're going to run out of money on May 1 on roads. We're not going to be able to hit the goals because of other underlying issues. We're getting money dangled over their heads to do projects. I'd like to take a rebuttal, please.
Okay.
30 seconds. All right. Thank you. First responders. Let's talk about first responders. Our EMS people. We put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging problem. They have a revolving door right now of people coming in and out, and we've given them a raise that's for 2 years. If you want to continue that raise, we're going to have to do a tax increase because every other office is strapped as well. Let's talk about the budget. Over the past 8 years, our budget has not been conservative. Our budget has given us 2 tax increases. Thank you.
Mr. Arias, do you need me to repeat the question? What do you think is the biggest difference between you and your opponents?
Well, obviously, the biggest difference is experience. These two gentlemen on each side of me have been in elected office before. I've not. This is my first campaign. Can't be any more honest than that. Where I am is coming at you from a common sense standpoint, okay? I think that's one of the things, and no disrespect to anyone that's currently in office, because these people are putting themselves out there to do the work for this county. But we need some common sense in Sumner County about how we're approaching things, okay? That's what I'm going to bring to the position, just to use common sense. As I mentioned a moment ago, I've spoken with the leaders, the mayors of Hendersonville, Gallatin, Dr. Phillips, Sheriff Weatherford, about where we are and what we need to do, because I'm learning. I want to listen to those folks. I want to listen to you folks, and together we come up with the ideas of how and what we need to do to move this county forward in the right direction.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. I don't believe in being negative about anything, so I won't be. Instead, what I'll tell you is what makes me different as far as what I think I've got. I've got a long-term plan. I think one of the most important things you can do in something like this is have an idea of how you want things to work out. We've been setting that pace for the past 8 years. And one of the key components that our county has missed out on is economic development. And I'll give you the example of Portland and Gallatin. Both have done amazing jobs bringing in industry and commercial. Well, if you understand your tax base, what that happens is the fiscal model we have is set up 40 cents to 100 for commercial, 25 cents to 100 for residential. So what that means is realistically, commercial and industry should bear more of the burden. They don't for the county. We're really lopsided. Only 27% of our tax revenue comes from commercial and industry. So what we've got to do is the county needs to do their part, which is bring in economic development, bringing in commercial, bringing in industry. And it needs to be business that fits us, that benefits us, and is the best thing we've got for Sumner County. As your county mayor, I'm going to bring in business. I'm going to bring in commercial. I'm going to offset the tax base so that you don't have to worry about things like that. Thank you.
Mr. Isbell, how are you going to make sure our county receives federal funding for highways, water, broadband, and state funding for roads?
Well, all of that's going to be handled through relationships. It's going to be having a good relationship with our state senator, which I do, a good relationship with our representatives, which I do, and also a good relationship with the other representatives that serve across our great state, which I do. In addition, it's going to have a good relationship with our congressman and our senator, which I have a good relationship with them. That's how you start to receive some federal funds, which are coming in now. We have a great road program, thanks to the great leadership of our state and our federal government. So that's happening right now, and I appreciate the work that they're doing.
Mr. Arias?
I think John said it best. Relationships. We have to have those, because We can't do it by ourselves. I don't have these relationships with our senators, but that's part of the job. The answers that I don't have, I work for every day to find. The relationships that I don't have, work for every day to build. Again, it comes back to leadership, common sense, doing the right thing. That's what I try to do. That's what I would do here. Build those relationships and work with the people at the other levels to get us what we need. I don't have all the answers. I'm like you. I've got a lot of questions, but I'm not afraid to say I don't have the answers and to go out and find them.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. For the past 20 or so years in Nashville as a command leadership for the police department, I've actively sought grants and dealt with it. And you're right, relationships are an important part. You know what's an even bigger part that you have to have? You got to have a little bit of coin in your pocket. And here's what I mean. Federal grants, state grants, all have the same thing. It's usually a 95-5 match. And what that means is the state or the federal government will give you 95% of that grant, 10 million, 100 million, whatever it is. You've got to have the money to match it. And if you don't have that money to match it, you're not going to get that grant, plain and simple. You can have all the relationships in the world. It doesn't help you if you don't have the money to match. And I think that's an important part, again, of having a strong fiscal base, being smart about how we've done our money and how we've laid it out. We've built up our county to where we can weather a 2-year recession if needed. We've built up our county that anytime there's an opportunity for federal money, we can match it and do what we have to at any given moment. And that's more important than anything else. Because I can tell you right now the reason we have 3 of the top 10 TDOT projects in the state, not Nashville, not Memphis, not anybody else but us, is because we've got the matching funds and the things that are needed in place to do it. I'll make sure we continue to do that as your county mayor. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Isbell, what do you see as the importance of proper infrastructure in our county? And are you willing to fund it even if it takes a tax increase?
Infrastructure is very important, and we're going to have to work on that infrastructure. Tax increase is always a negative word everywhere you go, but you cannot sit up here in good conscience and say, I will never support a tax increase. You just don't know what the future brings. I will tell you that I look at everything through a conservative lens. I look at everything from a policy perspective with one simple question. Is this the role of government? If it's not the role of government, I want to be out of it, and that frees up more money. We direct the monies to where they need to be directed to, and we can avoid a tax increase.
Mr. Arias?
Could you repeat the question again?
What do you see as the importance of proper infrastructure in our county, and are you willing to fund it even if it takes a tax increase?
Obviously, we have issues. I mentioned earlier the roads. That's one of the infrastructure issues. We've got a lot of other things going on as well. I am against a tax increase, but as John said, I can't say that I would not support it because we have to have the money to fund the basic needs of the county. Okay, so we've got to get into this budget. We've got to figure out where things are going that we don't need to have and to work that out. Now, again, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't have all of the answers for this. I have never dealt with a budget of this size. But together with the county commission, with the elected officials that run the tax assessor's office and the other parts of this county and the city leaders, we can figure that out. We can do the right things to get rid of the debt and to start servicing what we need. And hopefully we can avoid any further potential tax increases coming up within the next couple of years.
Mr. Taylor?
When we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about very specific things. For me, broadband, water lines, roads, bridges. And then there's those secondary parts of infrastructure, which are our services that support that. And that's going to be your EMS, that's going to be your sheriff's department, and then also your school system. How do you get that money? I'm going to tell you, those are really big numbers when you start looking at it. An example, when we redid, this 4-year plan for redoing all the unincorporated parts of the county roads is $14 million over a 4-year stretch. So you have to be creative in how you do that. And again, I sound like a broken record, but with long-term planning and a good fiscal base, you can do short-term bonds, which don't increase the maintenance of means for the roads department. You can pay them off before the debt services even bothers you, and in turn fund those things. Now, it's creative issues and creative ideas. I will say one thing that we know is coming up, and again, it goes back to those federal grants we kind of mentioned. The infrastructure bill that passed a year or so ago should be coming up within the next year. That's going to be a huge source for us. It can be transformational, much like we've done with our ARP money, and we continue to do the same thing without ever touching our taxes.
Thank you.
Mr. Isbell, do you support proper funding for our first responders, including our volunteer fire departments?
Absolutely. The foundation, our foundational role as a government is to ensure that we have a safe and civil society. And we simply will not have that with a strong, trained law enforcement. We have to invest in that. We have to invest in our law enforcement for training, and we have to make sure that we have the best out there. And that goes the same with our police or with our EMS. We have to stop that revolving door. Right now, we train EMS people for other counties. Why not pay them what they're worth and keep them here and let them do a career in Sumner County? Then our volunteer fire departments, I've done pancake breakfast, spaghetti supper, silent auctions for volunteer fire departments for years. It's very important that we figure out a way to get stable funding. As we continue to grow out in the county, we have to have stable funding for our volunteer fire departments. They're professionals too. They go through training as well, so we need to take care of them.
Thank you. Mr. Arias?
Absolutely. As I said, I've worked in this field. It's close and near to my heart. I have a lot of friends that are still in law enforcement. I know people with EMS. I know people with the fire service. We've got to be able to fund those things. But again, it comes back to money. Where's this all going to come from? Is it going to be on the backs of the citizens with another tax increase coming up to fund it? I want to fund it. I wish we had federal money and a printing press where we could go out and just print it off and hand it out the way the federal government does, but we don't have that luxury. We've got to figure out how to fix the budget, pay the debt, and find the funds to do this without putting the burden on you guys and the rest of the people in the county to pay more taxes coming up in the near future.
Mr. Taylor?
For the past 8 years, my vote has unequivocally said yes. When it came time to support them for a raise, I voted yes. When it came time to create a permanent revenue source for our volunteer fire, I said yes. When it came time to support our ambulance service, I said yes, every single time. And I'll tell you, it's again, goes back to long-term planning. When I first got on the commission, I had the privilege of being on the Emergency Service Committee and chairing that. And we looked at how are we going to fund and set up our rural fire protection. Well, it turns out we had the best system we already needed, which was our volunteer fire. And under my leadership on the budget committee, we have turned around and created a permanent revenue source for them. And again, it's $24,000 a year per station. Why is that important? Because that gives them that all-important matching money for federal and state grants that they can apply for. We've also started a program to replace their heavy equipment on a bond issue, one piece about every 25 years, which they take pretty good care of it. I've done, under my leadership and with working with Sheriff Weatherford, we've funded putting SROs in every school in the county. I think there's hands down my show of support for every bit of our law enforcement and EMS service.
Mr. Isbell, are you for or against raising the impact fee that developers pay? And what are your plans for keeping housing affordable for those who live here?
Right now, the impact fee really is a non-issue. Until we change the private act, you can't implement an impact fee. So I don't think we really should be going down a road of discussion of impact fees. What was the second part of that?
What are your plans for keeping housing affordable for those who live here?
And, it's the market drives the prices of homes here in Sumner County. There is what I refer to as attainable housing. We need to figure out a way to get attainable housing. Part of our problem that we have in Sumner County and other counties across Tennessee are corporations coming in and buying homes as rental communities. We're seeing this as a trend. And what this does is they're able to bump up the prices because they're in a long-term strategy for the cash flow. They're not as concerned as the equity position in the beginning. Thank you.
Mr. Arias?
Absolutely. I'm for putting the burden of this on the developers and the people that are making the most money out of this. Now, as John said, we have an issue with that. But part of the job of the county mayor should be to get with the legislature and get this fixed where we can do this. Williamson County's doing it. They're just doing it a different way. You can go online and look it up. I did. What are they charging these developers that are coming in and building in their county? We can do the same or similar here. We just have to go out and do it. As far as the housing market itself, my wife's a realtor. She does regular old houses. She's not a developer in any way. I see what the market's doing. Our neighborhood, there's houses going for 100,000 or more being sold in our neighborhood than what our house was when it was bought. Okay. There's not a lot I can see that we can do from that standpoint, but what we can do to make it affordable is get our name off that list I mentioned about CBS News as the top 10 highest counties cost per living by fixing the tax situation, fixing the things that need to be done, getting the budget taken care of, getting it straight where we can bring those costs down for everybody.
Mr. Taylor,
Could you repeat the question, please, ma'am?
are you for or against raising the impact fee the developers pay? And what are your plans for keeping housing affordable for those who live here?
The impact fees are a moot point right now. The way it's legislated there, we can't do them in Sumner County. But what I will say is, as a county mayor, that's kind of where that consensus and that influence comes in. And I'll give a perfect example. We just recently approved the Predators location that's going to be in between Gallatin and Hendersonville. One of the things that came out of that is when they agreed to that, the builders and investors gave 3 acres of land adjacent to Jack Anderson Elementary. Why is that important? Because at some point we're going to want to expand that school. Now we've got the land to do it. So I think there's a lot of things you can do if you're creative to make sure that the builders do benefit us. And I think it's important that we do that. I've seen that on the Planning Commission for the past 3 years. When someone wants to build here, it's a privilege. And we make sure they do that. And I will say our local builders are really good about that. We've had a couple people from out of state that didn't do so well. And they didn't initially build here either because of that. I think one of the things that's most important for the county in trying to make sure is understanding that no community homes are ever going to be able to provide the tax base that's needed. You've got to bring in commercial and industry, and I'll do that as your next county mayor.
Mr. Isbell, would you be for or against economic incentives if they brought jobs and tourism to the county? Would you have or did you support the recent TIF that was approved for the Chute Lane development area?
Well, I'm actually doing my PhD dissertation on pilot programs across Tennessee. So I do understand pilot programs and the risk associated with those. And it's important that when you structure a pilot program, that you structure it with clawback provisions. That's something that we're not doing. We need to make sure that we're doing that if we want to enter into any type of pilot agreement. TIFs, tax increment financing, that was designed primarily for blighted areas as a way to bring those areas back. You need to make sure that you really target your TIF for infrastructure development and that it positions the community for a positive impact. So that's the importance that I see of the TIF projects and the pilot programs.
Mr. Arias,
Could you repeat the question, please?
would you be for or against economic incentives if they brought jobs and tourism to the county? Would you have or did you support the recent TIF that was approved for the Chute Lane development area?
Absolutely, I would be for giving incentives to companies that come here and bring major jobs, okay? I don't have all of the details. I've looked and read online. Facebook is coming to Gallatin. They're bringing about 100 jobs. They got a sweetheart deal to bring 100 jobs. And most of the higher paying ones in that are coming from California, the tech people. So did we really win by having Facebook here? I don't know. But what I do know is that I would be for supporting companies that were coming in and bringing lots of jobs, 500, 1,000, 2,000, something like Nissan when they came into Smyrna. That's the kind of place that needs to have an incentive given to get them here. As far as the TIF, I would have voted against it personally. Again, I wasn't on the commission, don't have all of the details, but from what I understand, they were given a sweetheart deal, and Mr. Taylor may rebut this, but they were given a sweetheart deal as part of this, and I would have been against it.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, I voted for it. Absolutely. And again, it goes back to why is it so important? I think you have to be selective. When we talked about growth, you have to be purposeful and specific on how you do it. And I'll give you a perfect example. If we bring in a business that brings in 500 jobs, but they bring the 500 people with them, that's not really a benefit to us. Yes, we do get some, but when you're talking about, we want to bring in good paying jobs. We want to make sure that those jobs are functioning and meet the community and the culture of what we're doing. And I'll give you a perfect example. Facebook, it brought in 100 jobs. It's also bringing in $2 million a year in property tax for the county. Not bad. And they also have done over, I think it's right at $100,000 worth of grants to our school system for robotics and other things. Not bad either. So when you are smart about who you bring in, it's a huge benefit. And that's what's important. You have to be selective. Sumner County checks all the boxes. We have a great school system, very safe community. Thank you, Sheriff Weatherford. We've got an amazing local economy. We're there. We just need to be selective and make sure we bring the right things. As your county mayor, I'll continue to look forward to that.
Mr. Isbell, how important do you think focusing on long-range planning is to the future of the county?
Well, it's very important. You have to plan. If you don't plan, you're going to fail. So I agree that long range planning is important. Planning is something that I've done as assessor. I've had to plan because I've had to have a conservative budget, and we had to make sure that we were leveraging technology so that we could meet the demand that the county was bringing as far as our growth. We actually, in our office, thanks to the planning that we've done, I actually operate with less man hours now than I did when I took office in 2004, in spite of all of the growth that we've had. That's through planning, and that's through leveraging technology. I will continue to implement planning strategies as your county mayor.
Mr. Arias?
Absolutely, there has to be a long-range plan for financial success. We do that as individual people. We all have something we're working towards as far as retirement, be it a 401k, be it IRAs, whatever you're doing. So that has to be done at the government level as well, because we need to leave Sumner County the way we found it, or better than what we found it, for our grandchildren and their grandchildren and the generations to come. So yes, that's one of the things that I think the county mayor should be doing, working on finding these solutions. What can we do? Long-range planning to make it better and to handle the growth and to pay the debt and to do all the things that we're facing now, get those accomplished before we turn this over to the next generation.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. A long-term plan is many layered. I've been doing that for 8 years on the commission. I've been doing it for 20 some odd years in Nashville. And I'll give you an example and I'll tell you my plan, plain and simple. It's to maintain the excellence of our schools, to keep our communities safe and secure through our EMS, our first responders, and our sheriff's department, and everyone else, to focus on the infrastructure, bringing in water, which we're doing, broadband, which we're doing, and roads, which we're doing. And you take all of it together and you make sure it intermingles. And here's where I say it's so important. When you have workforce development, and again, it goes back to that school thing, 6.7%, if you're a graduate of a high school, you have a 6.7% unemployment rate. Not bad. If you don't graduate high school, it's astronomical. It immediately shoots up into double digits. We have 34 perfect programs through our CAP program for technical development afterwards. We've got volunteer state. We've got all these things and these perfect entities that work together so well. That's what makes Sumner County so amazing. We've been laying the groundwork for 8 years, and we're going to continue to do that.
Mr. Isbell, do you support properly funding the education budget?
Yes. I do support properly funding the school budget. That's a loaded question, because, a lot of people have, over the past 8 years, used the term fully fund, which has resulted in tax increases. So properly funding, yes. Fully funding, that's a different term that we need to talk about. We need to take an innovative approach to education. We need to maximize the parent-teacher-student relationship in everything that we do in education. That's the fundamental focus that I want to try to build that bridge with our school board and our school budget. The problem that you have with your school budget, and it's not a problem, it's just state law, is that you can't go backwards. You have to build the budget. You can't cut the budget, I guess is for lack of a better word. So there really isn't a drive for innovation. We need to focus on innovation in schools.
Mr. Arias?
Absolutely, the schools should be fully funded or properly funded, as the question was phrased. For the last 30 years, I've worked with WHIN Radio here in Sumner County covering high school sports. If you've ever listened to a Gallatin high school football game over the last few years, you hear my voice on the radio. So I've been involved with the schools. I've spent time working there as a substitute teacher when there was a crisis of those people available. I did some of that to help out. Most of it was at Gallatin High School. I know a lot of teachers at that level, okay, at that school specifically, if I can get the word out. I also have 5 grandchildren that attend Sumner County schools, and I want their education to be the absolute best it can be. So yes, we need to fund the school budget properly. However, if there's things in the school budget that maybe we can shift around, take from one place to give to another, I think that would be a wise way to look at and see what we've got. Obviously, that's something that's going to have to be focused on and looked at going forward, but fully fund the schools because that's our future.
Mr. Taylor?
Could you repeat the question one more time, ma'am?
Do you support properly funding the education budget?
Ma'am, I have voted yes every time for 8 years to support our schools. I voted yes to give our teachers a raise. I voted yes to make sure Sumner County has one of the best school systems in the state. And I'll give you an example. When we talk about why that's so important. Look at the unemployment rate. 8 years ago, graduation rate was in the 80s. Under Dr. Phillips and our school system and our school board, thank you, Tammy, we've gotten up into the upper 90s. I said it again, 6.7% is the unemployment for high school graduates. That's 10% of our high school population that increased their chances of employment. When you look at everything about it, any good county has a great school system. They're not separate. They go hand in hand. You have to have that because it's a driving economic force of workforce development. The idea that schools could ever be underfunded is just asinine to me. And I'll give you the example when we look around the county, our mid-state area. I said it before, Williamson County is 500 teachers short because they didn't put a priority. We put a priority on our schools. I will continue to do that as your county mayor. That's one of the most important things you've got for any county.
Mr. Isbell, how would you prepare our youth for career paths that lead them into good paying jobs that will keep them here in Sumner County?
I'm sorry, first part.
How would you prepare our youth for career paths that lead them to good paying jobs and that will keep them here in Sumner County?
Well, I will commend the education system on doing that now. Not every student that goes through high school is going to go to college. And right now we have a technical program that is very good. It supports those kids that want to take a technical trade and build the skills from that level. And those are good skills. Those are good life skills that will build nice careers for them. So I think the school system's doing very good in that, and I commend them on doing that right now.
Mr. Arias?
Absolutely. I think that is one of the key issues for me is seeing a lot of kids that I've been associated with over the years that feel like they're being pushed to go to college. They don't necessarily want to go. Maybe they don't have the aptitude to go, and perhaps they've fallen into a situation where they don't find what is best for them right away, and they struggle with it. I know an individual person that I could name that's in that very situation. However, as John said, I think the school has done an outstanding job, but I think there's more to be done. For instance, Gallatin High School currently has a program with the Sheriff's Department. When you get your criminal justice classes at Gallatin, you're qualified and certified to go straight to the Sheriff's Department and work as a correctional officer. Wilson County has a program of radio. Me being in radio for all these years, there's kids in Wilson County at all their high schools that are part of a broadcast and communications program that's teaching them those skills. That's something I think that could be added here, perhaps with some other programs to give us even more options for some of these kids.
Honey, could you say it one more time? I apologize.
You need the question again?
Yes, ma'am.
How would you prepare our youth for career paths that lead them to good paying jobs and keep them here in Sumner County.
And I'm so excited about this. And I apologize ahead of time because I'm a nerd about some of this stuff. I'm so excited because we're spending 1.5 million of our ARP money on a workforce development app. And we're working with Volunteer State, our school system, TCAT, Forward Sumner in the state of Tennessee. And we're going to be the first county in the state of Tennessee that has it. And what we're doing is we're creating an app for a phone. Best way to reach our kids right now. It'll start when they're a junior in high school, going into their senior year. And it's not those old vocational tests that say, hey, take a test and figure out what you want to do. What this is going to define is it's going to explain to them, hey, if you want to make this kind of a lifestyle, you'll need to make this kind of money. And here's the career paths you can have. And we're starting with healthcare, law enforcement, and information technologies. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up kids not only with the program they need. Hey, here's the classes you should take in school. Here's what you can take at Volunteer State. Here's what you need to take at TCAT, whatever it might be, to get those certifications. And more importantly, then we're going to have the businesses lined up behind it to hire them. And this is the super exciting part. The $100 million facility coming in for Hendersonville has already signed up to do it with us. I can talk for hours about that. It's fantastic, and I'm so excited about what our county is doing. It's amazing.
Mr. Isbell, how would you work to bring economic development to Sumner County?
Well, again, that's going to come down to relationships. I think it's important that we talk about economic development because we do need to shift that tax burden from citizens towards businesses. And it's not that we're shifting it towards businesses and giving them a greater burden. It's that we're bringing new businesses in and spreading that out. Right now, as it was already mentioned, 75, 76% residential. That's the burden. I'd like to shift that, and that happens through economic development. It's going to happen with doing incentives. We're going to have to be competitive as we're dealing with other agencies. Having a good relationship with the economic development crew out of the state. They bring projects, and also working with Forward Sumner and our cities. We have good economic development drivers in the city. So I think building relationships with each one of those will go a long ways in shifting that burden. Thank you.
Mr. Arias?
I'll echo that and say that obviously the cities have been doing this. They're doing a good job of it. We need to work with them. But as I mentioned a moment ago, we need some bigger employers, some employers that are going to come in and bring a lot of jobs, not just 100. No disrespect to those people that are going to have those jobs. It's great that they have that job, but we need to find some bigger things, get them in here. Maybe incentivize them a little bit, but let's don't give them a sweetheart deal that's going to basically wind up being an issue for us where we're not getting the proper amount of taxes from them for years to come.
Mr. Taylor?
I'm good on this one, actually, finally. Sorry. I think you might notice a difference. I don't speak in generalities. I believe in details. And for economic development, there's no portion of the county that actually does that right now. Gallatin has it, Hendersonville, Portland, all amazing. And it shows when they do it because they're attracting those businesses. The unincorporated part of the county does not. We don't have anybody responsible. So over a year ago, recognizing this is an issue, I went out and I started meeting with commercial bankers, people that do economic development for the state, people that do it locally, the ones that do it in Gallatin, Portland, all around. And I just sat down and said, how do we do it? Teach me so I can understand it. And the best part about that is it's Sumner County, so everybody wants to help everybody. They've been fantastic in making sure and sitting me down, introducing me to people at the state that you need to go, introducing me to the programs that we need to get about, how we get appraisals for our unincorporated parts of the county, how we get targeted for that. And again, you've got to have that infrastructure laid down. So what have we been doing over the past year? We've been building that infrastructure up, and we've been working on that for some spots for over 3 years. Long-term planning doesn't happen overnight. You have to start laying that foundation. I've been doing that for 8 years. I'll continue to do that if elected as your county mayor.
Okay, gentlemen, this is the last and final question of the evening. Mr. Isbell, what is your vision for Sumner County?
My vision's simple. We live in what I think is the best county in the state, best county in the nation. My vision is to retain that charm and character of Sumner County. It's about building relationships with the cities. It's about understanding what we need to do going forward to maintain that charm and character as people are coming into this county. My other vision is planning. Doing the strategic planning that I have done in the past brings the experience for my leadership role as Sumner County Mayor. And then finally, it's going to be conservatism. Got to be conservative because we are facing some serious financial issues as we continue down this path. And as we go into 2024, if we don't get a handle on it now, we will see another tax increase and there'll be no way to avoid it. Thank you.
Mr. Arias?
My vision for Sumner County is simple. We all came here for a reason, whatever that reason may be. I want this place 100 years from now, when we're all gone, to be the same place that we loved, that brought us here for whatever reason. I know that seems kind of crazy perhaps, but that's the vision that I feel like we have or could have and want to work towards, is to guarantee that we fix these issues and make this place what we love and continue to love as we move forward in the coming years. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of things facing this county. The growth, obviously, everything we've talked about here tonight, we're going to have to deal with, but we can do that together as leaders of Hendersonville, Gallatin, Portland, Westmoreland, White House, and all the other incorporated areas. As every citizen of this county, we need to come together and work together. Again, we don't do social issues here. We're working on the future of Sumner County, and I think that's a collective for every single person in this county to work towards.
Mr. Taylor?
My pops was in the military. I grew up that way, bouncing around everywhere, and I'm glad because it made me who I am. But I have a deep appreciation. My wife and I got to move up here in 95 when they let us move out of the county. We've got 3 beautiful kids that are products of Sumner County schools. And I got to see them grow up in the same community with the same friends. And that's the most incredible thing. And I've learned so much about our county over the past 8 years. When I first got elected, Billy Gamenden threw me in a truck and drove me around the northern parts. And I thought I knew Sumner County. And I've learned how special we are, from the Strawberry Festival to Gallatin Square to Hendersonville's Lake to everything in there. And I think it's important you protect that. We don't want to turn to Rutherford County. There's a lot of places we can say we don't want to be. But what I can tell you is we want to continue to be Sumner County. And how do you do that? With input from y'all. You tell us what's important. You tell us what the priorities are. And then we make sure we focus on those. What I've heard for the past 8 years is we need to have good schools. We need to live in a safe community. So we've put that into place. And as we continue forward, I'll continue to make what you want a priority. I'd also like to rebut something. There was a mention about the fiscal status of the county. Our county is one of the strongest counties in the state by far. And I'm going to tell you why. 8 years ago, we said we can't ever live through a recession again like we did in 2008 and 9. It hurt us too bad. So what we did is we built up our reserves. We have better reserves proportionally than anybody else in the state. We're prepared for a 2-year recession, 5-year negative growth over both those years without a reduction in services, without letting anybody go. Our county's set up for the bumps in the road. And you know how we got there? Long-term planning and making sure that we're ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you for attending, gentlemen. Wanted to let everyone know that we are going to have a straw poll now that the forum is over. They're going to put the information up on the big screens, and you can vote on your cell phone or your computer. Voting will stay up until 8:30, and after that, the results are going to be posted on the Gallatin Chamber social media pages. So get out your smartphones as soon as it comes up on the thing and start voting. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Out of your schedule. I know it's that easy, and we really appreciate it. So for y'all, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.